Hey, so we're here with Coach Pierce from Niagara University. Coach, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about yourself, Christian?
I can't complain. So, when did you realize coaching was something you wanted to do for the rest of your life?
I realized probably halfway through college. I played at Westchester University, a really great Division II school outside of Philly. So I grew up in Philadelphia, so I didn't go far from home for my college experience. So I'm playing for Deirdre Kane, working her basketball camps every summer, cheap labor, back in the day. And I realized that this is what I wanted to do. I really loved teaching the young kids about the game, teaching them everything that I knew, what I was being taught at that time in college. And I leaned over to my coach and I said, listen, this is what I want to do. I said, but I don't want to do high school, middle school, any of that. I said, I want to coach in college like you. And she was excited. And, from then on, it was like my redshirt junior year when I realized that summer going into my redshirt senior year was that, hey, this is what I want to do. And I just want to take the bull by the horns and learn. And I spent a lot of time in the office in between classes and stuff and just kind of seeing what she was doing, which I thought was really cool. She was the only person working full time because, in the 90s, a lot of people did not have full-time staff member with them at Division II. So our assistant coaches would come after work. They worked all day. One of them, Jim Stinger, was a teacher at a school in Philly, at a Catholic school in Philly. And so he drove in from Newman every day to come, to practice. So I got to see a lot of behind the scenes of what my coach was doing, and her work study were like director of ops in a sense back then. So they handled all the filing, all of the paperwork stuff for her. Any type of databases she might have had, they handled all of those things. So I got to kind of see what they were doing at behind the scenes work, but I also love just the impact that, my coach had on me, just from a standpoint of that one-on-one, even though there was, 15 of us on the team, and also just teaching us life lessons through the game of basketball. And that was the one thing that really appealed, to me.
You had mentioned before you're a native of Philly.
You know it. North Philly in the house.
I can dig it. If you were to use one word to describe a Philly basketball player, what would it be and why? One word, Philly ball.
One word? Oh, it's tough. Oh man, that's hard. I would say there's a lot of grit with a Philly basketball player. I think that toughness that we have, that we grew up playing on the streets, in Philly on the blacktop, it's no holds barred out there. It's like, if you're calling a foul, like, people are looking at you like you crazy because you learn your rite of passage, being out there. I was very fortunate enough to be able to play with a lot of guys growing up. So that made me tough really quick, being out there. And I had to prove myself because the first couple of times going to the courts, they don't know your game. And then when you finally get picked, you got to show what you can do. And then once you do, you come back the next day. Hey, I got sis over there. I got the girl over there. Yo, you're on my team, that kind of thing. So I think there's a lot of grit with a Philly basketball player. You're going to get a different type of toughness with them that you don't get, around. And we look for that here, at Niagara. We haven't gotten a ton of Philly players up here, but that is the quality that we're looking for, because we want to have a little bit of that with this Niagara team. And hopefully that's what people see when they watch us play.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If you were to use one word to describe your coaching style, what would it be and why?
There's a couple sides to it, I think. I would say one word though, Christian, this is tough to describe one word. To say one word that describes my style.
It's not supposed to be easy.
Yeah, I would say I'm passionate. There's quiet passion, and then there's the in your face, passion. So that's when I'm dealing with the officials sometimes that people see. But a lot of times you'll see just a quiet reserve a little bit on the bench. But the passion is there, the fire is there, but it's more about making sure that I've got a level head so that my players see that they should have a level head, on the court. Because I know that they're an extension of who I am and what our coaching staff represents. And if we're acting crazy, or me in particular, I'm acting crazy, how can I expect them to have their composure? So I would say a passion, but it's a quiet passion at times. And then there's the kind of in your face passion. to go with it.
Mhm. If I remember correctly, your first big collegiate job was at St. Michael's.
Yes.
So
Wow, that seems like a lifetime ago, which it really was when you think about it. 24 years ago, it was.
so you're an NE10, correct? A lot
Yes,
of people
yes.
don't
Northeast
know.
10. Yep.
Yeah, that's a really, really good conference. Like a lot of people really don't know. Like you've got, I had a bunch of my kids go there with Exodus, and you got the Bentleys, and then Merrimack was in it and things like
Yep.
that. And
Stonehill,
yeah,
UMass Lowell, where I also worked. They're now Division 1.
yeah,
Lemoyne was in the league. I mean, it was a battle every night. It really was. It was kind of like an NBA schedule. When it got to January, you were literally playing, I swear, every other day in the month of January and February. And the next thing you know, it was playoffs. And
mhm,
I'd never had that experience. I played in the PSAC, which I felt was a great conference, the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference. And now going up against, the Bentleys of the world, who are ranked in the top 10, Stonehill, who was ranked, Assumption, St. Rose, you had all these people, and it was like, whoa, I thought the PSAC was good, and I think it's a great league too.
yeah,
But the NE10, in my opinion, has to be the toughest conference in Division II basketball. And I'd say the PSAC now has gone up, and I think it's kind of right behind it.
yeah, yeah, definitely. The NE10 has some teams that maybe it would be some Division I teams.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. For sure. For
They're
sure.
really, really good. Your first big job on the D1 level, you had Delaware, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Tell me what it was like handling that position. What was the biggest adjustment for you?
I think the biggest adjustment for me was I was like officially full time. Although my job at St. Mike's had me there for like the 12 months in a sense, I'll put that in like quotes. I had to work camps in order to, make money and to get by. And Delaware was my first experience of, this is it, the big leagues, 24/7 in the summer. This is what you're doing. You're going out, you're recruiting, you're traveling all over the country, looking at some of the best talent that's out there. So I think that was a big adjustment for me, because recruiting had been on a local scale for me at St. Mike's, and I definitely enjoyed my time there. I cut my teeth in New England and got to make a lot of connections early on in New England. But going to Delaware really extended the network, of connections and relationships that were built. And I think even on the court, we had talented players at St. Mike's, no doubt, that were all league and everything, and some that led the country in different categories. But coaching some of the likes of a Cindy Johnson, who's from far Rockaway, New York, who wound up being one of the greatest players ever to play at Delaware, having players like that to coach, Danielle Leaford and Christine Corn, and the list goes on and on. There's so many Hall of Famers now at Delaware that played on those two teams that I was able to coach. I think I learned so much. I mean, Tina Martin, I thank her for the opportunity, to be at Division I. She and Janine Radice was the associate head coach at the time. And I learned, the areas that you have to be good at in this business in order to be in it as long as I've been in it now. And I would say it's about those player development, and relationships. I would say the scouting piece is important. And just, how you recruit. And I learned how to recruit there. I mean, those two women were two of the best recruiters that I've ever seen, even, to this day, and how they went after and sought out great talent. We didn't always get everybody we wanted, but I tell you what, we sure as heck put our best foot forward. And I think learning those things from those two people, I think really kind of helped with the foundation of recruiting and player development and scouting, and what helped me be a very successful assistant coach.
So your first big head coaching job, Cheney, correct?
Yes,
So
yes. Those four, I want to just say apologize. I thought I knew what I was doing, but wow, I had a lot to still learn after 7 years in the business.
no, I'm gonna tell you why that's important to me, because I went to HBCU. Actually, the rival, I went to Lincoln.
Oh, bad choices. I did win those games though. I didn't win many games. And
I won those
I was
games.
2-0 against Lincoln. 2-0 for sure.
Yeah, Lincoln's got a good program now. Really,
They
really
do.
good program.
They
Yep,
do.
yep, yep. So the HBCU experience, it's like no other. I'm sure,
Definitely.
having
It
been a
was
coach
it
there.
was very different from being at a PWI, because that was all I knew as a player. And then for the first 2 to 3 jobs that I had before getting that job were at PWIs.
Mhm.
I think the people there were tremendous. There were some special people I got to work with at Cheney that I still keep in touch with, today. The family atmosphere, the way they looked out for each and every one of our players. I could pick up the phone and call the dorm monitor and the woman that ran the residence hall and ask her questions and have her look out for certain people. Hey, this one's not feeling well today. Can you just keep an extra eye on her? Or she's going through some stuff right now. Can you go stop by her room and check in with her? And it was those type of things that you hadn't really fully had that experience before then. And I would say the food was amazing, the best food you could ever have. At the dining hall there, man, I was in heaven every day with the food situation too. But just the camaraderie, the family feeling that you felt just right away, from people. There wasn't anybody standoffish. I felt like everybody welcomed you with open arms. And even though some people were not happy with me getting a job because I went to the rival, school, I went to Westchester. But I
Mhm.
think in the end, when they got to know me as a person, the little bit of time that I was there, they got to know that I was all in. I was, 10 toes in and wanting to bring Cheney back to prominence. It got cut short because I decided to go back to being a Division I assistant. But, the time there, I think I learned a lot. Cleo Hill Jr. was the men's coach and got to, really watch what he was doing, watch his practices and, really kind of talk to him a lot while I was there. And I really enjoyed the time, with Coach Hill. And he's a tremendous coach, and he's won everywhere that he's been. I'm pretty sure you know that. And it was nice to kind of be able to work alongside of him for 2 years.
Mhm. From that time period for the 2 years, if you can go back in time and adjust one thing, what would it be?
I think for me, I would give those kids a little bit more of a chance to make the mistakes they needed to make. Like, I think I was really hard on them, and I know they needed discipline coming in, which is that's what they were looking for, with the next head coach. But I do think that I could have definitely had a little bit more of a softer side, with them because I was young, so I didn't want to come off as a pushover. But I do think that now I can say, hey, you can show a little bit more of the fun and playful side, of things, and not just so much, the disciplinarian and, bad cop, in a sense, because, there were some talented young women there. And, I think for them, they were coming out of a really tough situation with the previous coach. And I think I was kind of too young to fully realize the scope of what they had gone through. To really, be there for them in a different type of way and use my youth more, to my advantage, with them instead of kind of coming off as an older coach, putting a foot down and putting a fist down and all that type of stuff. So I think I would definitely do quite a few things differently, going back. But, I don't regret anything. I just feel like you learn and you evolve. And when you look back, you say, oh man, I could have handled this better or that better. And those are the things you think about now.
Mhm. Like you say, you went back to the D1 assistant coach level. You went to Marist, if I remember
Yes.
correctly. Coach Ryan. So a story about him.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite coaches, like I remember my first game at Exodus, and he came to recruit one of my players. Super stoked. I'm not gonna lie. I love his DVDs and stuff like that. His like, his big his things are awesome. Like I love his press breaks and everything like that. So
Yep.
he really knows the game. Like
He does.
he
He
really,
does.
really knows the game. Um, why was Marist the appropriate place for you to take your career to the next level? And what did you learn working alongside him that still gravitates towards you today?
I think number one, he took a chance on me. I was coming from, a situation at Cheney, and I was looking at D1 assistant jobs, and there were a ton of jobs. And, believe it or not, there were some people that, hit me up with some no's and, we're looking for something else. And, a mutual friend introduced me to Megan Jebbia, who's now the head coach at American, and she was the associate head at the time. And so Meg got on the phone with me. We talked, we kind of hit it off. And she said, I'm going to let you talk to coach. And so when I talked to coach, we had a great conversation. And, we both felt like this was a fit after just one conversation. And I would just say that man has a heart of gold. And he is one of the nicest people that you'll ever meet. He will literally give you the shirt, off his back. He won't even think twice about it. And for him to take a chance on me, to give me that opportunity to be with them was something I'll never forget. And he knows that. And we're family for life because of that. And one thing I'll say about him that I learned is, a lot of coaches think more is more, right? You got to have long practices. You got to, do this for long periods of time and, make kids stay for this or that. What I learned from him is less is more. And you can still get the results that you want in less time. And you could do it in a smart way. And that is something that, we do here. We try not to practice too long. We try not to tax them too much with things. We try to, with scouting reports and things like that, we want to get to the point. We want to get things right, but we don't want to overload them with so much information that they're not going to remember one thing. So I think that's something that stuck with me in my time with coach. And, there's so many things I learned from him in a short period of time that, when I left and we both were sad about me leaving, but he understood. It was one of those things where hey, you can always pick up the phone and call me. You have any questions about anything, you need anything. And he is a key player in me getting this job here at Niagara, because you got to believe you're going to call the godfather of the MAC if one of his former assistants is up for the job. So I thank him, for helping me get this position here too.
You then went on to become an assistant coach at Army. Okay, so the recruiting process and selection, it seems like it's a little bit different because obviously you have kids that get into service, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you guys were successful during your time there. Can you talk about that time and how'd you guys sustain the program and bring in players at a high level, considering the details on the back end of what they had to do to be a part of the program?
Yep. So you got a few stops in between before I get to Army. We can fast forward to it. There were 2 other stops in between, which is fine. How I met Coach McGarity and his daughter Maureen was through the Marist, connection. Mm-hmm. We actually scrimmaged them. We scrimmaged Army when I was at, Marist that year. So I worked under Dave McGarity, and, he laid everything out to me, when he recruited me to come be on his staff. And he said, listen, you got to be transparent. You have to be honest with these kids and parents about everything they're going to be getting themselves into, because what you don't want is someone to come here and say, this isn't what you said it was. So that was one thing I learned, with being in that experience. You're always honest with people, I think, but with the West Point situation, you really had to make sure they understood that it's not a typical basketball situation where in the summer you might want to be here doing individuals and things like that, but you're probably jumping out of a plane. You know what I mean? You're probably zip lining somewhere. So I think for us, we targeted not just people who had been in military families, but kids that didn't even know that this was an opportunity for them to have a great career after they played basketball. So that's what we sold. You're going to have a job. Your friends can't say they're going to have a job when they graduate from even, the Ivy League schools. Yeah, you think you're going to get a job, but at West Point, you're already going to have a job. So I think for a lot of these top players that we were able to get there, and I'll help assist with, because I would never say I'm the point person on anything. We worked together. You had 4 assistant coaches that were working their tails off to get high level people, to come. And I would say just telling them what the opportunity is that presents and sets them up for life. Because once you have that West Point degree, nobody can take that away from you. And people are always going to want to hire you. You obviously make the 5-year commitment. And then after that, you kind of see what you want to do. And I'm still in touch with a lot of those young ladies that I coached over the 2 years there. And some are still making it a, lifelong career. And there are some that did their 5 years and now they're very successful in, a different career, outside of the military. So I think, for us, it was maybe introducing ourselves in a way that was different than, a regular school, and saying, hey, we're talking about life beyond basketball. We get it that, you want to play, but this is about something bigger than yourself and serving your country and being able to have a long lasting career, when it's all said and done. And there were a ton of young ladies that were like, wow, and I can make how much? And it's like, you start talking that money, people start listening. So it was pretty cool to kind of be able to get into some homes and talk to some people about, our government and the army and what it could bring, for them and their families.
St. Joe's. Stop.
Home. Yeah. Home. Yeah.
You were highly successful there. You guys won the A10. You coached multiple pros. One person being Natasha Cloud, very, very good player on both sides of the floor.
Absolutely.
Tell me a couple valuable lessons, because when you're coaching very good players, and then you
Very
have
good. Yes.
elite players that can like make a living off of it. Like there's, whether people want to admit it or not, there's a difference in the approach when you're dealing with that kid in regards to getting the maximum out of their potential. It's just gonna hit different. So tell me what it was like coaching those kids and getting the most out of their potential.
It was amazing. So my first year there, that was the year we won the A10. So blessed with a really great group of young ladies that Chris Day, who's now at LaSalle, he was the recruiting coordinator at the time. And, Natasha wanted to come home, be closer to her family because of some medical stuff going on with one of her sisters. We had Chatilla Van Grinsven, who was probably one of the best post players in the league. She's originally from the Netherlands, and her sister had been on the team the year before. Samira had just graduated. And so when you talk about having inside outside presence and players that know that they want to make money when they get out of there, they wanted to work out all the time. If they were not in class, they wanted to get shots up. Natasha, I was her point guard coach. So I worked with her a lot on a daily basis and, did a lot of workouts with her. Her jump shot was not very good, and she'll tell you that it was terrible. But she had to work on it, and she did. Her left hand wasn't very good, believe it or not, and she had to work on that. So those were things that she knew, and she wanted to be a sponge. And, I had to be creative with drills and things, to kind of keep her attention. And we also had some of the guys players on the men's team, like Langston Galloway, who's in the pros right now. He would be like, Coach, do you want me to play defense on anybody? Because he would be in the gym anyways, getting his shots up. So when it was time to do, some other things live, he's like, hey, Coach, I can play defense if you want. So that was the type of atmosphere, we had there. You had a lot of players on the men's side too that were looking to make some money. But those kids worked and they put the time in. And you saw Natasha get better from her redshirt sophomore year to being drafted, in 2015 with the Mystics. And they followed her around all year. They came to practice. They came on the road to watch shoot-arounds. They were really doing their homework, on her as far as, from a draft status. But Chatilla had several people interested in her after her senior year, with us. And she had a tryout with the Connecticut Sun, and she was the last person cut. And we all thought she was going to make the team. That was when Tina Charles was on the Connecticut Sun at the time. And Ann Donovan, God rest her soul, she was the head coach at the time. So we went up to watch her at training camp and everything. And I was like, man, I think she's got a shot to make this team because she could shoot the ball. She could take you off the dribble. And she was great around the basket at 6'3", a very athletic player. And I was like, man, this kid can do it. And next thing you know, she winds up going over, making some money over in Europe and, that type of thing. But then you had, Natasha still had 2 more years after this kid. So she was on their radar. She was on the WNBA's radar. Marianne Stanley came out to watch her quite a few times when she was with the Mystics and stuff. And we had other kids on the team too that they may not have gone on to play at a high level, like, Natasha and stuff, or even Chatilla over in Europe and in the Euro League and Euro Cup League. But they got in and just wanted to work. Erin Shields is probably one of the hardest workers that I've ever been around and the best shooter that I've ever coached. The kid was in every day, 3 to 4 times a day, getting shots up. And you had someone like that working alongside with Natasha Cloud, and it was just unbelievable magic. I think Natasha's desire, her passion came through every single day. She competed at practice as if it was a game, and she held everyone to that standard. And in fact, I think our freshmen, her senior year, I think she scared them so bad, but I think she helped them because they later, went on to be great players at St. Joe's. Like Chelsea Woods went on to be a great player for them, and Sarah Fairbanks, who's coaching now. And that's because Natasha was a senior who was like, hey, this is how we do things around here. And at St. Joe's, they win. It's their history and tradition supersedes everything. You put that jersey on, everybody knows. But I think just teaching, your young people what to do and having an elite player like her that is going to go play, in the WNBA at some point. It's like, hey, I better listen. But it was different. She was different. She wanted to get better every single day. And that was something that she was instilling in her teammates, as well. And I thought her leadership, she got better and better every year with her leadership. In the summer, she wasn't taking breaks. She was playing pickup, playing summer league, and making sure that everybody else was doing, the same thing. So I think, for her, I'm really proud of her just off the court, what she's done with the social justice piece. But on the court, I don't think you're meeting anybody that wanted to, compete at a high level all the time, like her and a few of her other teammates on those St. Joe's teams.
So you get the head coaching job in Niagara. What might make this place an ideal jump for you, like in regards to the place?
I think for me, 3 things were important. In looking at Division I head jobs was, what was going to be the commitment level at the top, president, athletic director, what was going to be the commitment to women's basketball. Academically, is it a good school academically, to make sure that our young women are set up when they get out of here and they graduate, because we all know a lot of people aren't playing pro and they need to have their education. And, and another thing was the familiarity for me, because there were a lot of jobs that have been open, over the years, but I was familiar with this conference because went to the Sweet 16 with Marist and, had competed in this conference and knew a lot of the coaches still. So those 3 things were very important for me as I interviewed and put, applications and or feelers out, for certain jobs. I wanted to feel comfortable knowing that, I could compete in a conference where I knew, how people played and, what style, and that type of thing. Because I think sometimes head coaches take jobs and it takes them a whole year or 2 to kind of get the lay of the land of what the recruiting's like in a conference and what to expect from different programs and coaches. Well, that part I wanted to eliminate, quickly, and knowing and following still because of my connection with Marist. I always followed the MAC even after I left. So those were 3 things that were really important. Did I ever think I'd live in Western New York? No, but I found a home here and the people here are amazing. And, I've got great neighbors and stuff where I live, and the community on campus has welcomed me with open arms, and they've been nothing but outstanding, since I've been here. And the support now is at a higher level than even when I got here. Every school has their challenges financially, being a small Catholic school, private Catholic school. And I think we've gotten better every year with our support. Financially, we got a new locker room, I don't know if you saw that on social media, but we had that, we had a donor, bless us in men's basketball with a good bit of money to, say, hey, get the locker room that you want. And, it was a great experience to kind of be a part of that and doing the unveiling and letting our players see, wow, this, the school really cares. And that's going to be a huge part of our success, moving forward. And I think that, we don't take anything for granted around here at Niagara. And I think that, the locker room kind of proves that, hey, if you just stick with it and in due time, you will get, some of the things that you need, because we all know in this world with student athletes, they're very visual, and it's about what you have and others have. And now we're feeling like, being on a better playing field with some of the other schools in the conference now. So.
Tell me your favorite drill in practice or a slogan that you guys use every day that really gravitates, and really works for you.
Wow. We do some really good drills too. I think because of our whole Hurricane Havoc That's our mantra. That's our thing. We have it in the locker room. It's on our shirts, on the back of our shirts, in practice. And we want to create havoc on offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. So for me, I would say I love shell drill. I love when we do shell drill, from a defensive side of things. And I can't, get rid of our offense, because our offense, we like what we run. We press, we run, we try to get some quick scores. But I would say not one specific drill, but anything transition wise that we can transition from defense to offense to get us going. I love those types of drills. It could be offense, defense, ODO, people call it, things like that. Sometimes we got to go score in a stop, any of those types of things. We love to do, because our biggest thing is we're trying to create a category 5. When you talk about hurricanes, right? They cause destruction, right? On 5 different levels. Category 1, there's, some damage, high winds, things like that. By the time you get to 5, it's unfortunate. It's there's nothing left in a category 5 but mass destruction. So that's our goal. Every game is to have a category 5. And I think we've been working towards that, this year by creating a lot of steals and, scoring off those steals and, just creating a lot of turnovers, being one of the top teams in the country and tops in our league and in those categories. And that describes us in a nutshell. It's Hurricane Havoc.
Yeah. You touched upon my next question is, you guys play fast. You guys play aggressive, it seems like. And like I was telling you before we started, I've seen you guys play a bunch this year. You lead the MAC in steals, but you also lead the MAC in assists, which I think is very awesome. You normally
very much so. Our offensive coordinator, Brianna Chambers, would appreciate that. And Coach Les Harvard appreciates the steals and forced turnovers on that side of the ball, because he handles our defense for us. But yeah, I think we want to share the ball. That's our biggest thing. We talk about it, in practice a lot, just making sure that, we're converting off of things. And now it's like, okay, now your friend might be the benefactor of it. We trap, right? People think in the trap, that person, those 2 people, one of them is going to get the steal. No, we always say your friend's going to get it. So now when you get the steal, we're rolling the other way. And a lot of times we've got somebody at the other end. So it's that easy extra pass to make to get that easy score. And offensively, we always want to work the ball around to make sure that we're getting the best shots. And I think that our point guard, Angel Parker, is the best point guard in the MAC. And she does a great job of distributing to everyone, and when you have a person like that on your team and your best player is unselfish, I think everybody else is going to be the same way too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Tell me the best lesson you learned via observation of another coach.
Wow. I think I've learned a lot from, there's been 2 coaches that I've worked under, actually 3, that were very cool, like under pressure. When it came to end of game, situations and stuff, how some coaches get a little frantic and they start like yelling and screaming and stuff like that. And just because there's so much going on at the end of a game, and they were more like quiet in a calm in a storm. And I've noticed that, the 3 coaches that I'm thinking of, and I don't need to say their names, but they know who they are, were just so cool. And that was one thing I wanted to take, with me here and being a head coach, and understanding in those moments at end of game that, you got to be at your best self and have your mind clear to be able to, be able to concisely say to your players what you want them to do, what you need them to do. And there are a lot of coaches in the league that are like that I've seen. And I admire them, for keeping it together in times of crazy, that might be going on at the end of games. But I do, value, seeing, coaches that are able to do that, because some are not, they can't control their emotions. And in their teams, like we've won games, like with kids just losing it at the end. And it's like, why is that kid losing it? And then you think, oh, well, the coach kind of went off on them a little earlier, or, they went off on them like just 2 minutes ago. So of course that's going to stem to, to the players. But that's something that I think that I've kind of admired, just having that calm presence in the middle of like the storm of everything going on in a game, especially at the end.
So You meet a young coach. You're about to step on the floor the very first time. You're about to jump on the floor. You got one piece of advice you can give them. What is it?
Stay true to who you are, because it's really, and trust yourself. Trust yourself. Trust your instincts. Because I think a lot of times we second guess ourselves because we're like, oh man, we're on this stage now. You call it, the big stage, the big job, and you start questioning everything that you've already learned to get you to this point, and you just got to trust yourself. And I tell young coaches that all the time, and be true to who you are, because that's all you're going to have in the end of the day. You can't be somebody else, and you can't think that somebody else needs to question what you're doing when you know in your gut, what the right thing is, to do. We've all been trained that way, especially when you've been under great mentors and stuff, that you just got to trust. There has to be that trust. And I unofficially mentor a lot of different coaches and different levels: Division 1, Division 2, Division 3. And that's one thing that we've talked about. And you just got to be true to who you are, and trust your gut, because that's all you're going to have in the end of the day. And there's times where I even went against my own gut, and I was like, I know that the first mind of what I was supposed to call or do, I didn't do, and I second guessed myself and did something else. It always bites me in the butt. So I try to stay with the first mind, as they say, and just go with it and live with the consequences from there.
What can we expect to see from this team? Not wins or losses, but when someone watches you play, what is somebody supposed to see?
They're going to see a team that is very aggressive, that is very they're well coached. I know we have moments of we look like we're kind of all over the place, but I think everybody does. But you want to know that, like, what our mission, what our goal is we're here to speed you up, we're here to turn you over, and then we're here to score it quickly. And that's all being aggressive. And like I talked to you about the Hurricane Havoc, that goes all under that whole umbrella of things. And when people see that, they know that a Niagara team is never going to quit, that we're going to keep fighting, to the bitter end. And that's one compliment I think we get a lot from a lot of people, a lot of coaches and fans, and administration and stuff, is just the fight that's in these young women, and that they just keep coming at you, and they're not going anywhere. And that's what we preach, every day, as far as just getting after it, and keep going, don't stop, just keep going. And I think they do a pretty good job of that. We're still working on a few things, getting some kinks ironed out, but I think overall they've embraced, who we are and what this identity is of Hurricane Havoc.
Anything I missed you want to share, Coach?
I just like to, shout out my staff, because the current staff that I have right now, Les Harbin has been with me now for 5 years, so he's been the longest on my staff. And he handles the defense and stuff like that, and just a great communicator, great teacher, and just a great person, that our young women can look up to, and Brianna Chambers is our other assistant coach, associate head coach, actually. Both she and Les are associate head coaches, because they had head coaching experience in the past. And she does a great job, with the offense and stuff on the court, but off the court, I think I've got an all-star group too. Kayla DeCriscio is my younger assistant coach, and Megan Cunningham, who used to be at FDU, is our director of ops. And it's just an all-star crew, and I think we balance each other out very well, and I think they support me in all the ways that I need support, and they do a great job with it. And this group of young women that we have on this team right now, they're unbelievable, and I'm thankful to have them have taken a chance to come to Niagara. And we're still shooting for that MAC championship that Niagara has never been able to secure, but we do feel it's in the near future. With the right group of people, I think you can't go wrong. And you give everything you have every single day. You thank God for the blessings you have, and then you just leave it up to the rest. Like, you just gotta trust and believe that good things will happen, as long as you keep sticking with and trusting the process. And I love this group that we have, and I've been blessed, like I said, with all the different coaches that I've worked with and for, who've helped me get to this point. And I just want to pay it forward every chance I get. And I'm glad that you called to do this, and wanted to do this Zoom and this podcast. And I hope that somebody can get something out of it. even if it's just one thing, but it's about the people, and it's about caring for one another and looking out for one another. So I'm thankful that, I could do this and be on this platform with you, Christian. Thank you so much. And, I hope that somebody sees this and they want to continue to pass something along to other people and grow the game, but importantly, humanity, and just being there for folks, especially during these COVID times, right now, which are not easy for any of us at all.
All right, Coach. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And I'll be in touch for sure.
All right. Thank you, Christian. God bless everybody.
God bless.